years ago, Earth was nothing more than a burning rock. Volcanoes were erupting everywhere, meteorites were constantly crashing down, and the planet was changing every single moment. Then came a massive collision that created the moon and opened the path for life. Tiny chemicals joined together, proto-cells formed, and over billions of years, life finally emerged. In the oceans, microbes began producing oxygen, slowly changing Earth's atmosphere. Then came giant dinosaurs, some massive plant eaters, some deadly predators, and some fast feathered hunters. They ruled the planet for millions of years, until suddenly, a gigantic asteroid struck. Dust and ash blocked the sun. The climate collapsed, and the dinosaurs were wiped out. This gave mammals a chance to rise, among them, humans. So get ready, because this is the most unbelievable, dangerous, and magical story of Earth and life. First, understand this. Earth was not a ready-made planet. About 4.6 billion years ago, when the sun was forming, a huge cloud of gas and dust was swirling around it. Inside that dust were tiny particles. These particles slowly collided, stuck together, and this process continued for millions of years. Small clumps formed first, then those clumps grew into larger bodies, and eventually one big round object formed. This was the early Earth. But that Earth had no solid land like today and no cool surface. It was a molten, red-hot sphere. Volcanoes were constantly erupting on it, and meteorites from space were hitting it non-stop. Earth's face kept changing all the time, melting, cooling, breaking apart, and forming again. During this chaos, a massive event took place. Scientists believe that a Mars-sized body collided with the Earth. This impact blasted a huge amount of debris into space, which slowly came together to form the moon. The moon later helped stabilize Earth. Because of it, Earth's tilt did not change too wildly, and tides began in the oceans. Tides are not just waves. The constant movement of ocean water mixed chemicals again and again, and this process later proved extremely important for the origin of life. Slowly, Earth began to cool. As the surface temperature dropped, water vapor released by volcanoes started collecting in the sky. Clouds formed, and then it rained for an incredibly long time. Imagine rain falling continuously for thousands, no, millions of years. This rain formed the oceans. Some scientists also believe that part of Earth's water came from icy comets and water-rich asteroids. Whatever the source, the result was clear. Earth now had water, and with water came the possibility of life, because water is the best medium for mixing chemicals and driving reactions that lead to life. But the air at that time was nothing like today's atmosphere. There was almost no oxygen at all. Instead, the air was filled with gases like carbon dioxide, nitrogen, methane, and ammonia. The sun's intense and dangerous radiation hit Earth directly. Because there was no protective ozone layer back then, lightning cracked through the skies, powerful storms raged, and the ocean water was rich with minerals and chemicals. All of this may sound terrible, but these very conditions were doing the work of connecting chemicals. Nature had its own kitchen running, where heat, lightning, water, and minerals came together to create new molecules again and again. Now understand the beginning of life like this. Living beings did not appear first. What came first were tiny chemicals, which slowly combined to form larger and more useful molecules. Just as a house is built brick by brick, small molecules joined together to create bigger ones. Over time, molecules formed that could store information and, to some extent, make copies of themselves. Scientists often talk about things like RNA, because RNA can carry information and also help drive chemical reactions. Once something starts making copies of itself, selection begins. The copies that were more accurate, more stable, and more durable survived and continued forward. There was no thinking mind guiding this process. But according to the laws of nature, better organized systems slowly kept surviving. Then came another crucial step, creating boundaries. In the ocean, molecules tend to scatter in all directions. So some fatty molecules formed membrane-like layers, a kind of tiny bubble that could trap things inside. This bubble was like a proto-cell, an early structure that existed before true cells formed. Now imagine this. If self-copying molecules entered a proto-cell, that proto-cell could slowly grow and then split into two parts. This is considered the real lifelike beginning, a system that can contain its inner components, take in energy, and move itself forward. Slowly, the very first rulers of Earth appeared, microscopic life forms. These were tiny organisms like bacteria. For millions and millions of years, there were no large animals on Earth, only microbes. They spread everywhere, in the oceans, near hot water vents, on rocks, everywhere. These organisms lived without oxygen because oxygen simply did not exist at that time. Then some organisms learned to make their own food using sunlight. This was photosynthesis. And the most important change happened when certain organisms began using water for photosynthesis and started releasing oxygen as a byproduct. These were cyanobacteria, tiny organisms. But they changed the future of the entire planet. At first, the oxygen they produced did not accumulate in the atmosphere. Instead, it dissolved in the oceans and kept reacting with substances like iron. That is why ancient ocean rocks contain layers rich in iron. Only after a very long time, when these reactions were mostly completed, did oxygen begin to increase in the air. This event is called the Great Oxidation Event. The rise of oxygen was a disaster for some organisms because oxygen was like poison to them. Many species went extinct. But some organisms learned to use oxygen to produce much more energy. Oxygen-based energy production is far more powerful. And this extra energy later allowed the evolution of larger, faster, and more complex life forms. As oxygen levels increased, the ozone layer formed, which began blocking the sun's dangerous radiation. Earth's surface slowly became safer. Then, gradually, complex cells appeared. Cells with a nucleus and a more organized internal structure. Scientists believe this also happened through partnership. A larger cell gave space to a smaller cell inside it. And that smaller cell eventually became the mitochondria, which produce energy. In plants, a similar process created chloroplasts. This transformation gave life immense power. After that, multiple cells began working together to form a single body, multicellular life. Following this, life in the oceans diversified rapidly. Many kinds of organisms appeared, some that swam, some that crawled, some with shells, and some that hunted others. After millions of years, some organisms stepped onto land. Plants arrived on land first because they could make their own food using sunlight. After plants came insects, and then animals that could feed on them. Moving onto land was not easy. Bodies had to be protected from drying out, new ways of breathing were needed, and strong limbs were required for movement. But evolution slowly built all of this, step by step. Now we reach the era where dinosaurs enter the story. Many people think dinosaurs were always around, but that is not true. Before them, Earth was already full of many different life forms. Around 250 million years ago, Earth experienced a massive catastrophe, considered the largest mass extinction in history. A huge number of species disappeared. When Earth slowly recovered, new species got the opportunity to spread and evolve. After this, the age of dinosaurs began, around 230 million years ago. Dinosaurs were not all the same. Some were massive plant eaters that fed on trees and leaves. Some were deadly predators, and others were small, fast, and highly agile. Dinosaurs ruled the Earth for a very long time, about 160 to 170 million years. Just think about it. The entire history of humans spans only a few million years, while dinosaurs dominated the planet for tens of millions of years. During that time, Earth's climate was very different from today. Many regions were warm and humid, with vast forests full of giant plants and towering trees. Dinosaurs adapted their bodies to their environments. Some evolved long necks so they could eat leaves from tall trees. Others developed sharp teeth and claws to hunt prey. Some dinosaurs even had feather-like structures. And today, scientists believe that modern birds are actually the evolved descendants of one group of dinosaurs. In that sense, dinosaurs never completely disappeared. One part of them still lives among us today in the form of birds. Then, about 66 million years ago, another major turning point arrived. A massive asteroid struck the Earth. After the impact, dust and ash spread across the sky. Sunlight was blocked, temperatures dropped, plants began to die, and the entire food chain collapsed. Many dinosaurs went extinct. This disaster gave small creatures, especially mammals, a chance to survive and spread. Mammals already existed before, but under dinosaur rule, they could not grow very large or dominant. Now the field was open, and mammals began to evolve rapidly. From them came monkey-like creatures, and eventually, humans. So if you tie the entire story into a single simple thread, it becomes clear. First Earth formed, then it cooled. Then water and oceans appeared. Then the world of chemicals slowly created lifelike systems. Then cells formed. Then oxygen arrived. Then complex life evolved. Life spread from oceans to land. Dinosaurs appeared and ruled for a very long time. And after them, paths opened for mammals. Paths that ultimately led to us. This journey did not happen like magic in a single moment. It is the longest and most patient story time has ever told. When you breathe today, hidden within that oxygen is the work of tiny cyanobacteria. When you watch birds flying in the sky, an ancient dinosaur story is flying with them. And when you see Earth as a living planet, its oceans, forests, animals, and humans, remember this. It all began with a burning, lifeless rock, and billions of years of change turned it into a home for life.